Fred here, welcome back to the Gear Obsession channel. In front of me are knives out of my collection that are $15 or less. Some of them are pretty good, some of them are really high value, and some of them not so much. Stay tuned. Let me go ahead and give you a quick flyover of these. Bunk Bottom, BLW, some Appalachian trails that I got from Lowe's. This is a Winchester, cheap Winchester from Walmart, another cheap Winchester from Walmart. This is a Smith & Wesson I picked up at Kmart. This is a K-Bar Warthog that I got from my local exchange. Kershaw Crown. This is that $1 knife that you get at Walmart. Believe it or not, this is probably the most reviewed knife on the internet because people don't care about busting up a $1 knife. And this is at $8 or $7.98 or something. But they call them Ozark Trails. Both of these are considered Ozark Trails. This is the one that runs about $7 or $8. So let me give you my opinion on all of these knives and which ones are worth it and which ones aren't. Let's first talk about the Buck Bantam BLW. Really nice blade, 420 HC. This is made in the USA. Very sharp out of the box. And the heat treatment is very good even though it's only 420. But right here is where the good ends and then the bad starts. This handle, I hate it. Thermoplastic, they call it. It's real tough. You can stomp on this thing. It's very tough, but there's no metal liner, so there's some flex in there. The edges feel kind of sharp right in here, so I'm not too crazy about that. And you can pick up any of the knives in my collection in here, and you usually don't get one that's blade heavy like this. Like here's where the balance should be, and it's very heavy out front, so it feels awkward to me. It never felt right. And worst of all, blade centering, terrible, and you can't do anything about it. You can't adjust it. You can't disassemble this, so I can't recommend this. So we'll put this aside, and next we're going to move in the Appalachian Trail knives that I picked up at Lowe's over the years. These are them. They have all different models. Every year there's different ones hanging in there at Lowe's and maybe some other places, but I've always got these at Lowe's. And I've felt that they've been good. I wouldn't like highly recommend them, but they're worth what you pay for, I guess. These are cheap, $6, $7, $8. The lockup on this one is very late. And it's very thin liner. Even though this thing weighs a ton, I had this in my truck for years. And, it's alright. This is way too heavy, though. And this one, again, the liner, it's alright. They haven't failed me. They keep a reasonable edge. But, not one I would recommend over some others in this price range, but I wouldn't say don't buy them either if you're just looking for a beater knife and you happen to be in Lowe's. So those are alright for China made, mystery steel, cheap Chinese. Next is the Winchester knives. I have two Winchester knives here, less than 15. This one, actually, it looks nice until you get real close. And then you could see, I actually had to put some glue or something in there. The scale, the wood part cracked. And the fit and finish is okay. It's not great. But it looks nice. But that's where it ends. The serrations are terrible, very pointy. They sort of grab on everything. It's hard to cut with these, even though it has very nice jimping up here. You know, made in China. Winchester will put their name on anything, I'm convinced, as far as knives are concerned, and other things. The liner is very thin, lockup is very late, and I haven't used this knife too much. And you can see, so as it wears, it's going to, you know, it's already all the way over. So as it wears more, it's not going to hold the blade as solid. Even though it is solid now, I'm just assuming, though. You can adjust it. So, I don't know, I wouldn't recommend this. And this is sort of a copy of the Gerber, you know, like paraframe. Like I have a Gerber paraframe here, and you can see how they sort of copied it a little bit. Unfortunately, this is out of the price range of what we're talking about. And this is terrible too. Some of the serrations were dorked up out of the box. You can see how this one is messed up right there. And the metal, or the attention to detail, is not really that good. But it's a frame lock, and you know, it came fairly sharp. But I just don't like it, and I just don't recommend Winchester. They just feel cheap. Fit and finish is not good at all, and you could do a lot better for what you pay. Now this one, you know, it's a Smith & Wesson. It's my only Smith & Wesson in the price range, and this came from Kmart. It was on sale. Not very expensive. I think I got it for like 10 bucks. SWAT 2. It's actually pretty cool looking, but it's pretty heavy. Not really ideal for everyday carry, just because it feels so awkward. But it's not terrible, but the liner is very thin. It's very late in the lockup. When it's new, it should be like right there, you know, basically behind the whole blade, but it should give you some room to wear as it comes out, you know, as you use it. And you can see it's almost all the way over. You know, and again, China, not that good, in my opinion. And there are some Smith & Wessons that look pretty cool, but as far as this one, not crazy about it. Wouldn't recommend it. So I'm like going through all my collection here. I'm not recommending any. Well, let's start going over the ones that I like. Out of the $15 and less category, finally we have one. This is by K-Bar. A lot of their knives come from the USA. Unfortunately, not this one, but it's fine. This is G10 scales, and the blade material is, where are my notes? Sorry, folks. Is OS 8. It's Teflon coated. So for $14, this is an incredible find as far as the materials are concerned. You don't have to get the tonneau. You could get a more conventional blade and without the serrations if you'd like. This is just what happened to be in the store at the time. The liner lock is a little thin, but lockup is where it should be. And it's kind of hard to push over. You know, typical of cheap knives, the liner locks are usually very, very, you know, hard to press over, and you can see by my finger. So you got to be strong there to work the liner lock in this. But as far as the materials are concerned and the workmanship, this is definitely a go for buying. This is definitely worth it for the price. Come on, focus. Made in China, of course. That's how they get away with making it so cheap. I love this handle material. This G10 is done so well on such a cheap knife. It's really incredible for the price. So I would recommend this knife. I'm going to leave it right there. That was one of my recommendations. The K-Bar Warthog. K-Bar Warthog. Alright, next one. Well, let's go with this one. This is the Kershaw Crown. It's kind of new. It's only been out a year or two, and it showed up in Walmart for a short time. Might still be there. I couldn't believe it. You know, I saw it in the showcase. They didn't even have the price on it yet, and I'm like, how much is that? And it's like, I don't know, $13, $14. And look at those micarta, I'm probably not saying it right, micarta scales. Really beautiful scales. Stainless steel bolsters. It's a good looking knife. It's like a gentleman's knife. Really nice. Oh, by the way, lockup is good on this guy too. Well, I wouldn't recommend something that, and centering, blade centering is good. I wouldn't recommend something if blade centering is terrible, by the way. So, blade centering here is really nice. And let's take a look at this blade. The blade itself, the blade material is 8CR13 MOV, which is a Japanese steel, which is almost the equivalent of AUS 8. Lockup is pretty good, right where it should be. It's not all the way over. And it's actually not hard to press over like a lot of other cheap knives. So really, nice, very sharp. If you notice, this is not a bead blasted blade. Usually cheap knives will bead blast, and by bead blasting it will make it more susceptible to rust and corrosion. So really the only gripe I could have about this is maybe the thumb studs are too smooth, but other than that, I mean, if I flick it, I could I try to do this in front of the camera though. Oh well. I'm sure it will break in eventually. Oh well. Still a little stiff. I haven't carried this really that much. So, but really nice. I don't know if you could disassemble this. Now, something else that's special about this knife, I'm sorry, is this is the only knife in the collection that has a tip-up carry, and I prefer tip-up. So, as far as inexpensive tip-up carry, this is the only one, at least in my collection. And, by the way, none of these knives, the clips, you can't move them around at this price range. Most of them are right-hand carry, tip down, but this is the only one that's tip up. So, highly recommend the Kershaw Crown. Next. Anybody recognize that? Let me see by a show of hands. This is the most tested knife on the interweb. You will see more people beating up this knife on the internet than any other knife. Why? Because it was only $1. You might recognize it in its packaging, maybe, because you've probably seen it hanging in Walmart for $1. It's that Appalachian Trail, with Ozark Trail $1 knife. So what do I think about it? Well, yeah, it's, I guess, worth $1. The thumb stud actually has a nice knurling on it. That's about where the good ends. Has a nice thumb stud. Serrations, well, dominate this blade. And the blade just feels crummy. It feels like stamped metal. Something doesn't feel right about it. It just feels like it's stamped out. And again, the balance, actually the balance is not bad. But the handle material is just cheap plastic, and that's where a lot of problems lie. A lot of people, this is broken when they first open it, and when they do finally break it is because this pin breaks out of the handle and it just comes apart because the handle material is just cheap plastic. No liners, lock back. There's a lot of play in there. So, it's hard to recommend this knife because someone could get hurt if they use it for anything other than what it's intended for, which is very, very light use. So unless you're just opening up letters or maybe cutting some, thin to medium cord with those serrations, I wouldn't recommend this at all because it can break. The handle material is terrible. You know, if they put some liner in here where it can possibly fail and end up breaking, then and reinforce that area, then maybe I could recommend it. But I doubt it would be still $1. Cheapest clip is cheap too, so I wouldn't waste my money on the $1 knife unless you just want to have another video on YouTube testing this like the hundreds of others. And the last one, which is very special to me, is this guy. This is another Walmart Ozark Trail knife, and it runs about $7 to $8. Many of you have probably seen it over the years. Really nice clip. Has some good weight to it. Blade centering still perfect. I've had this for years. The thumb stud is a little smooth, but lockup is nice. Nice looking blade. It's bee blasted though. It's China, but really no rust. I think I might have cleaned it up once. I don't know. I love this finger choil. It's deep. It feels secure in the hand. And it takes an edge very, very quickly, but it doesn't hold it very well because, again, it's cheap Chinese steel. But it's $8. But it's solid. It's solid as a rock. Look at that frame lock. Really beefy, nice looking scales. Really good looking, solidly built. And the blade material is decent, but it can take a sharp edge, so as long as you keep a sharpener handy, like this guy. I like these little Smiths, as you know, little sharpeners. As long as you have one handy around there to keep it sharp, this is a great knife for the money. I wouldn't, you know, if you're looking for cheap, $8, this is it. This is what I recommend. Then if you go up a couple of more dollars, around, you know, $13, $14 area, Kershaw Crown and the K-Bar Warthog. I really felt that this video here on inexpensive knives or high value knives was really important because when you first start to collect, you might not necessarily have a lot of money, especially in these days. And a lot of these I bought early on as I started my collection. And you know, you go on YouTube and there's just a plethora of very expensive knife reviews. Not, you know, and you're like, $30, $40, $50 knives are considered cheap. And you're like, man, I can't afford a $10 knife right now. So it's important to do reviews on these inexpensive knives too. At least that was my frame of mind when I, you know, decided to do this video for those of you who are younger that are still paying off your school loans, college loans, and working 3 jobs, and it's rough out there today, and you're looking for just for an inexpensive knife. I felt that doing this video was really important to help you out. So again, the Warthog by K-Bar, really nice knife, especially if you like that G10. If you want something that looks more of a gentleman's knife, Kershaw Crown, really nice. And of course, even cheaper, the lowest I would go is this Ozark Trail, this particular one from Walmart, not the $1 one, but this one. I've had this for years and it's never let me down. Now, you know, the edge retention is not quite there as with more expensive knives, but it's, you know, for what it is, it's done very, very well, and it's a very strong knife, and I would trust it. It has a good solid frame lock. It's like a rock, and you know, this thing is just so heavy and the metal is so thick that you could even use this as an impact device even when it's closed. It's rather impressive for $8. So there are my recommendations. I hope you enjoyed this review of $15 or less high value knives, which ones to get, which ones not to get. So I really appreciate friends, viewers, and subscribers for stopping by again. I hope this helps some people out, and